Hello everyone. In this video, we'll go over the Vocabulary Workshop Level Blue Unit 3 words. You can follow along at home using your book. Let's get started. The first word is bluff. And bluff can be used in 3 different ways. The first way is as an adjective. It means direct and outspoken in a good-natured way. And this usage of the word bluff is not very common. However, let's look at the example. He seemed a hearty, bluff fellow. So when you're using bluff to describe a person, you can imagine someone who is always speaking in a very honest way, but they do it in a kind way or from a kind place, even if it sounds maybe a little bit too direct. So I could also say something like, the woman was bluff, but she was kind and helpful. Maybe she says some things that other people wouldn't say. The next way that we can use this word bluff is as a noun, and a bluff is a steep, high cliff or bank. It can also be an attempt to fool someone. The example sentence says, a scout stood on a bluff overlooking the valley. So the example is talking about this first meaning, and here's an example of what a bluff would look like. As you can see, it's basically just a high cliff. I can say, they stood on a bluff and looked down at the river. Or the hikers rested on a bluff overlooking the forest. And the third way that we can use this word is as a verb, and it's also this second definition here of the noun, but we can use it to mean to deceive or trick, to try to fool others by putting on a confident front. So someone who is bluffing is probably telling a lie or trying to seem like they're telling the truth even though they're not. The example says, the thieves tried to bluff their way past the security guard. So you can imagine there are some thieves who probably stole something, and they're trying to pretend like they are not thieves as they walk past the security guard. So another example that I could use is when someone is playing a game of cards. In this situation, a lot of people tend to bluff because they want to pretend like the cards that they have are really good, or maybe they want to pretend that the cards they have are really bad. That way the other person thinks that they can win. So I could say something like, the card player tried to bluff and pretend he had a better hand. And better hand means the group of cards that they have. So this third definition for bluff is the most common one that people use. The next word is cautious. Cautious is an adjective and it means avoiding unnecessary risks or mistake. When you are cautious, you are being careful. That way you don't make a mistake or get hurt. The example says, a cautious traveler prepares for emergencies. I can also use this word in a sentence by saying, be cautious when crossing the street. We have to be careful and look both ways. Or, the cautious driver slowed down in the rain. Especially on rainy or snowy days, it's important to be cautious when you are driving. That way you don't get into an accident. You can also be cautious when you're doing your work. I could say, a cautious student checks their work twice. So instead of just quickly doing your work and turning it in, after you finish, you check it again. That way you can avoid making any mistakes. Lastly, I could say something like, he was not cautious around the hot stove and burned his fingers. So as you can see in this picture, the man was not very careful and he ended up getting hurt because he was not cautious. The next word is consist. Consist is a verb and it means to be made up of. So when something consists of something, it means it is made up of those parts. It tells you what things are included to make a whole. The example says, many salad dressings consist of oil, vinegar, and spices. So these items here, the oil, the vinegar, and the spices are the thing that make up the salad dressing. So we can say the salad dressing consists of these things. I could also say this salad here consists of lettuce, tomato, and cheese. Those are the things that it is made up of. Another example would be a book. I could say the book consists of 10 chapters, which would mean it is made up of 10 chapters or there's only 10 chapters in that book. Lastly, I could say something like, our team consists of 7 players. That means it's made up of 7 players or there are only 7 players on our team. So anytime that you want to talk about something being made up of some things, you can use this word consists instead of just saying made up. The next word is despise. Despise is a verb and it means to look down on intensely or feel contempt for. Dislike strongly. So basically, when you despise something, you really don't like it. It's stronger than just not liking something. It means you feel very negative about it and you don't respect it or want to do it at all. For example, I despise bullies. This is probably true for everyone because nobody likes someone who is a bully. So we can use the word despise to express that really strong feeling of not liking or even hating something. Another example could be, she despises doing chores. Usually people don't like having to do chores like cleaning, washing dishes, mopping the floor, things like that. So they might say that they despise doing those things. I could also say I despise it when people lie. I really don't like it. So instead of just saying you don't like something, maybe you can use this word to express that stronger feeling. Our next word is haven. Not to be confused with the word heaven. We pronounce this one as haven, almost as if there was a letter Y here. So a haven is a safe place. For example, the captain sought a haven from the storm. So imagine that there is a very terrible storm going on and the captain of a ship is looking for somewhere safe. So that safe place would be called a haven. And this word is often used together with the word safe. So someone might say that they're looking for a safe haven. I could also say something like, this cabin was a safe haven during the storm. It kept the family safe from the snowstorm. Or maybe we can say the library is a quiet haven for students. It's a safe place where they can read books and relax. And we can say the shelter is a haven for homeless animals. For animals that don't have a home, instead of just living on the streets, this shelter would be a safe place for them where they can live. So we can call it a haven. The next word is miniature. And this word can be a little bit difficult to pronounce. So when you're saying this word, you can pronounce it as min, this first sound, and then I, like an IH, I, and cher, like a CHER at the end. So you would say it as miniature, miniature. And a miniature is a very small copy, model, or painting. The example says, her collection of miniatures is quite valuable. So when we use the word miniatures without any other describing noun, it's just talking about some tiny models like these characters here. These are miniatures of Disney characters. And we can have miniatures of almost everything. So here is a miniature house. Here are some miniature cars. and even a miniature painting where someone painted a very, very tiny painting on a tiny canvas. So we can use miniature as a noun to talk about the actual item, or it can also be used as an adjective to describe the item. And as an adjective, the meaning is basically the same. It is on a very small scale, so something that is smaller than normal. The example sentence says, a miniature railroad was on display in the toy department of the store. So when I use this word in sentences, I could say things like, he built a miniature model of a house, or the museum had miniature cars on display, or she painted a miniature picture on a tiny canvas. So anytime that you want to describe something that is smaller than what it usually would be, we can use this word miniature instead of saying something like small, for example. The next word is monarch. Monarch is a noun, and a monarch is a person who rules over a kingdom or empire. So a monarch is like a king or a queen. The example sentence says, Queen Victoria was Great Britain's monarch from 1837 to 1901. So in this sentence, the person, Queen Victoria, was the monarch. She was the queen of Great Britain for this time here. So a monarch rules a country. They are usually the main leader of a kingdom or an empire. And we can say that monarchs rule countries for many years, or we can describe a monarch as being kind, or maybe he was not a good monarch. Some other examples could be, the young prince will be the next monarch one day. So he will be the next ruler or the next king. Or I could say, the monarch lived in a large palace. And maybe if you recognize this picture, we can say Queen Elizabeth was a well-known monarch. And this is not related to the meaning of the word, but I thought it was interesting. There is also a butterfly that's called a monarch butterfly. So it's using the same word there. Maybe because it's such a beautiful butterfly that it's like the king or queen of the other butterflies. Have you ever seen a monarch butterfly before? Our next word is obstacle. Obstacle is a noun, and it means something that gets in the way. So something is in your way and it makes it harder to reach your goal. And an obstacle can be an actual object, like a physical object we can touch, or it might just be a problem in your mind that you have to overcome. The example says, shyness need not be an obstacle to success. So some people believe that if you are very shy, then it can be hard to be successful. So some people might describe shyness as being an obstacle. It's something in your way that can stop you from reaching your goal. I could make a sentence for this picture by saying, the runner jumped over each obstacle in the race. Or maybe this runner couldn't get over his obstacle because it was a brick wall here. We could make a sentence by saying, the fallen tree was an obstacle on the road. The cars couldn't get past because of this obstacle. And another example could be, the muddy road became a big obstacle for cars. It was very hard for the cars to get past. So anything that stands in your way or makes it hard for you to overcome something or to reach your destination, that can be called an obstacle. Our next word is postpone. Postpone is a verb and it means to put off until later. So when you postpone something, you decide that you're going to do it later instead of doing it now. It doesn't mean that it is canceled, it's just moved to a different time. The example sentence says, Coach decided to postpone the practice. For this word, I could make a sentence like, they had to postpone the game because of rain. Or maybe something like, the trip was postponed due to bad weather. Most often, things will be postponed because of some kind of problem with the weather. However, you could also use it to say something like, the teacher decided to postpone the test until tomorrow. So it's being put off until later. So anything that you can't do right now, but you can do later, you can say that it will be postponed. Our next word is straggle. Straggle is a verb and it means to stray off or trail behind, to spread out in a scattered fashion. The example says, students who straggle from the group may get lost. So if we look at this video here, you can see that there are going to be some hogs that are crossing the road here. And then the baby hogs are following behind, but there's one that's really far behind all of the others. So that one is the one that we can say is straggling, or sometimes they are called a straggler. So anytime that someone is far behind or a little bit behind the rest of the group, we can use this verb to describe that action, or you'll often see it with a R at the end to describe that person or animal as a straggler. So I can say here, the baby duck straggled far behind the others. Or imagine in a race, there's usually people who are running very fast at the front, and the slower people are towards the back, and often there will be a lot of stragglers. Our next word is treacherous. Treacherous is an adjective, and it means likely to betray, seemingly safe, but actually dangerous. So something that is treacherous, it seems safe at first, but it's actually not safe. It's dangerous. So we often use this word to describe someone who might trick or betray other people. The example sentence says, that hill can be a treacherous climb in winter. So imagine climbing up a mountain or a hill, but it's winter time, so it's very snowy. That can cause it to be treacherous or dangerous. It might look like it's safe, but it could be very slippery. I could make some sentences with this word, such as, the icy road was very treacherous to drive on. It looks like a safe road, but it's very icy, so it is dangerous or treacherous. Or I could say something like, the kayakers soon found themselves on a treacherous part of the river. Maybe when they started down the river, it looked very safe, but soon it became treacherous or dangerous. And here you can see the bridge connecting the two parts of the cliffs is very treacherous. It looks safe, but it could easily break, and then the climbers might fall down. Our next word is vivid. Vivid is an adjective and it means bright and sharp, giving a clear picture or full of life. When something is vivid, it is very bright, clear, and easy to imagine. It makes you feel like you can really see or experience it. The example says, she gave a vivid description of her trip. So in this sentence, someone is describing the trip or vacation that they went on, and the description is so vivid that the person who's listening can really imagine what the trip was like. For this picture here, I can say the city was very vivid. As you can see, it's very bright and colorful, and it looks like there's many people walking around in the city. Another example would be, the story created a vivid picture in my mind. Or you can even say, I have a vivid memory. So the things in your mind, when you're thinking about them, you can really clearly see them as you're thinking about them. Another example is, the painting used vivid colors. You can see in the picture here that it's very bright and colorful. So anything that's very bright, you can describe it using this word vivid. And that's all for this video. We went over the vocabulary workshop Level Blue Unit 3 words. Thank you so much for listening and see you next time. Bye!